Hey everybody, welcome to another installment of RoccoBot Predicts. This is the top 10 fantasy football projections for all positions, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and defense and special teams. If you're new to the show, RoccoBot is basically the fantasy football analytics engine that I built. These are computer projections. I don't always agree with them, but we'll get moving forward and I'll let you know kind of what I do and don't agree with. As I always say at this point, please, if you could give me 2 seconds of your time for 2 clicks, a like and a subscribe. We really need your help to grow. The more we grow, the quicker we can get some features unlocked to make these videos a little bit more interactive and better for you, and it's also better for us, so we could use your help. But let's dig in. Top 10 quarterbacks, RoccoBot predicts in order. We have Jameis Winston, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, assuming he plays, Matt Ryan, assuming he plays, Phillip Rivers on Thursday Night Football, Kyler Murray, Drew Brees, Jacoby Brissett, you see questionable, assuming Jacoby Brissett plays, Dak Prescott, and Josh Allen. A couple of quick notes here. So Jameis Winston, for me, it's always buyer beware. For me personally, I always subtract 10 points off for interceptions because he's so volatile. This is a great matchup for him this week against Arizona. He should score fairly well. He is actually, as you can see, my top-ranked quarterback this week in terms of computer projections. RoccoBot likes him. I like him personally a little bit less. Lamar Jackson, I love this week. Patrick Mahomes, they've been targeting this Tennessee Titans game as the return game for him. We know he's been slowed. I think there was some rumors about an ankle injury slowing him up. I don't love the knee. I do think he scores well. It's a nice matchup against Tennessee. For him, I think he throws to Tyreek Hill a bunch of times if he plays. If he doesn't, I still think Matt Moore is a start. I have Matt Moore at about a 20 to 21 if he plays. So I think he's certainly worthy of making this list as well. So either Kansas City quarterback I think would be a start this week. Matt Ryan, his ankle concerns me, so pay attention towards as we get closer to Sunday if he can even go, and if he goes, how reliable he can be against really a tough Saints defense. Phillip Rivers, the Oakland Raiders secondary is banged up. Kyler Murray, I think he'll run well. Drew Brees, I think he'll get better. I would not start Brandon Hoyer, I don't think, this week. The Kansas City wide receivers are banged up, so I think they'll do more ball control, maybe hit Naheem Hines or maybe hit Eric Ebron and Jack Doyle at the tight end position. They basically have Zach Pascal, Chester Rogers, and then whoever else they can basically band-aid into that wide receiver position. Dak Prescott, I think, has a decent game this week against Minnesota. I like Minnesota's defense, but I think Dak Prescott can find some openings there. And then Josh Allen, I think he'll get you enough rushing yards against the Cleveland defense by itself, by the rushing yards. I think he's worth a start. So there you go. Top 20 running backs in order. We have Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, assuming he plays, Aaron Jones, James Conner, assuming he plays, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, David Johnson, assuming he plays, Mark Ingram. Then we have Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, David Montgomery, Ezekiel Elliott, Tevin Coleman, Melvin Gordon, Chris Carson, Le'Veon Bell, LaShawn McCoy. I don't really have a ton to say about the running backs this week. I actually kind of like where these running back rankings ended up personally as well. Like I said, RoccoBot for fantasy football is more accurate than I am personally, but it's good when we lock up there. I do find it interesting that there are 2 Chargers on the top 20 list, although what it's projecting is that the Chargers will be using running backs in the passing game as well. So I think the screen game will be alive and well. Obviously, Oakland will be running hard with Josh Jacobs. Christian McCaffrey against the Packers, I think, will have some openings. You got to like Dalvin Cook every week. If Alvin Kamara can't go, I think Latavius Murray is a very safe play. If James Conner can't go, I think Jalen Samuels is a very safe play. So there's a lot of value out there and potentially value on the waiver wire as well. So again, as I always say, check NFL.com/inactives before, like an hour before game time. Make sure these guys are playing. If not, in a lot of cases, you can start the backup. Same with David Johnson. You could start Kenyon Drake if David Johnson can't go. So just pay attention to the waiver. The waiver wire, but the inactives report, that's important for you. Wide receivers, top 10 in order. Tyreek Hill, and I like him regardless of whether or not Patrick Mahomes plays. Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, Cole Beasley, very interesting that he pops up on this list as high as he is. Again, I think the slot receiver does pretty well against Cleveland. I like the matchup. He's found the end zone 2 or 3 games in a row. Josh Allen is developing more of a chemistry with Cole Beasley, and I like the way that they're integrating him into the game plan lately. So Cole Beasley, he's up there. Do I think he's going to get 23 points? Do I think he's going to be the number 4 wide receiver? No, but I can tell you in my league, I see this projection. I've seen what Buffalo's doing offensively. I like it. I had just basically my bye week is killing me to death this week, so I just snapped Beasley up off of waivers. I think Crowder's another guy you could probably snap up off of waivers if you're looking for one, although he didn't make this list. Keenan Allen obviously playing on Thursday night against a weaker Oakland secondary. Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper against that tough Minnesota Vikings team. Tyler Boyd, now this is interesting. If A.J. Green plays, I would say probably A.J. Green is more likely to score better than Tyler Boyd. However, also remember that they're switching quarterbacks and going with the youngster Finley out there. I don't love this projection personally. Again, RoccoBot doesn't really take into account, and it can't really take into account how effective the other quarterback will be. I think that, it's a tough matchup against Baltimore. I think maybe in garbage time you might be able to get some catches and yards, so there you go. Allen Robinson for Chicago, I think, is probably the only reliable bear at this point outside of maybe David Montgomery. And then Julio Jones, even against Lattimore, assuming Lattimore locks up with him in New Orleans, I think he'll still get his day. I mean, Julio Jones, you can do a really nice job on Julio Jones, and he'd still end up with 80 yards and a touchdown. So Julio Jones is just that kind of receiver. I start him no matter the matchup. Next one, we have tight ends in order: Kittle, Kelsey, Henry, Everett. I like that matchup for the Rams against the Steelers this week. Gerald Everett is kind of a waiver wire scoop and play candidate for me. Jason Witten, same thing. I think he'll get some opportunities against the Minnesota defense. He is available on most people's waiver wire, so you can probably play him if you need a stream option. Hooper, Andrews to get back in the end zone. Greg Olsen as another waiver candidate. O.J. Howard, if he plays, assuming he plays, I think finally gets in the end zone this week. It's been a frustrating season for O.J. Howard owners. I get it. But the projections like him this week. And lastly, Darren Waller. I don't like him to score with this projection, but I do think he'll move the chains, and that's just as important, especially in PPR leagues. Lastly, we have defense and special teams in order: San Francisco, Carolina, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis against that, tough to score, basically, Miami offense. And remember, Miami lost their starting running back and probably their primary receiving threat in the red zone. One to suspension, one to injury. So Miami's a little bit barren in the cabinet there. Let's see. The New York Giants against the Jets. Again, that's more matchup based on the Jets' inability to get anything going offensively. Detroit and Chicago, same story. Kansas City, Chicago against Detroit, just because Chicago's defense is awesome. I know Detroit scores well. RoccoBot knows Detroit scores well, but they really respect Chicago's defense. Tampa Bay versus Arizona and Baltimore. I got to say, personally, I don't love the Tampa Bay Arizona. I think Arizona is going to get some points. Maybe Tampa Bay forces some turnovers, but I don't love that projection personally. I also don't love the San Francisco projection. I love San Francisco's defense, but to think that San Francisco is going to be the number one defense against Russell Wilson on Monday Night Football, I don't like it. I know they're rested, but they are still a little bit banged up. I think San Francisco, while still a top 10 defense, I don't think they're the number one defense. Same with Carolina, Green Bay. Green Bay, after getting kind of punched in the face a little bit against the Chargers last week, I think going back home, they'll probably play a little bit better. I do still think they're a top 10 defense, just maybe not the number 2 defense. Pittsburgh versus the Rams. Again, Rams coming off a bye week, don't love it. Indianapolis, once you get to Indianapolis, I like Detroit. They're actually my stream play this week. Kansas City, Tennessee. Kansas City's defense is playing stronger. So I like some of these matchups in the bottom, in maybe the latter half of this top 10 personally. But again, RoccoBot is better than I am at projecting these. That's why I use RoccoBot in daily fantasy football. So, keep an eye out for that as well. That takes me through an entire episode. If you want to get in contact with me, I give out all of the full projections. I do them for every single player in the league in these matchups, including kickers. I don't put kickers on here because it's just an odd thing, and kickers are so commoditized. It's like, you can just basically roll a set of dice or throw darts at a dartboard and find a kicker just as well as these projections. But, these are all free. You can follow me on Twitter, send me an email. I'm happy to give you these projections for free. Thanks for everybody for watching, and we will catch you on another episode soon.